We are live now.
Right. Should have some adverts from Pearl and Dean or something.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this month's meeting of Winwick Parish Council. I think we'll just get straight on with the agenda. So first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Have we received any, Julian?
None received from the members of the committee, but just to let you know that the finance officer is not present this evening.
Thank you. Any other members?
Sue Emery sends her apologies.
Thank you. Okay, let's turn to item 2, the Code of Conduct. I'm just going to remind members that if they've got any pecuniary interest in any of the items on the agenda, they should declare them no later than the item arising. If there's anything that you want to say now, please do so. Item 3 are the minutes of our last meeting, which was on the 28th of July, and there was a special meeting on the 25th of August 2020. Have members got copies of those minutes and had the opportunity to look through them?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll move the minutes, Chair.
Pardon?
I'll move the minutes.
Thank you. Anyone willing to second?
I'll second them.
Thank you.
There's a small error in the numbering.
That's approved. Item 4, procedure for co-option of a member. Peel Hall Ward. Did we get the procedure through?
It came out with a supplementary pack, Chair. So yeah, there is a procedure. I mean, effectively, we have to co-opt somebody because the election is more than 6 months away. There is no formal guidance about how to co-opt, so it's left to individual parish councillors to determine how they want to do that. Right. I would suggest that there are 2 options. You can either put something on the website and advertise for co-optees, or you can co-opt somebody from the party from whom the vacancy arose directly. It will be a matter for this council to decide. So I'm in your hands, really, Chair. There is some guidance and a form for members to fill in. So long as the co-optee or the candidate for co-option meets the qualifying criteria, then they can be co-opted.
Do they need to be present, Julian, or not?
They don't need to be present, no. The only thing that the regulations require stipulates that you must take a vote, and that there must be a clear majority of councillors voting for that appointment. Righto.
Well, I understand that we've got a candidate. Chris, do you want to introduce that candidate and perhaps propose them?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to propose that we co-opt Tim Collins onto the parish council. Tim meets the criteria in order to serve on this parish council. He's within 2 kilometres of the parish boundary. He is a Labour Party member and a Labour Party candidate. So it would fulfil Julian's criteria of nominating someone from the party of the departing member. So I think Tim will make a fantastic contribution to this parish council. So I'd like to move and propose that we co-opt him on this evening.
Do we have a seconder?
I'd like to second that, Graham Friend.
Graham Friend will second. Can we put that to the vote, please? All in favour?
Yeah. You have to read out the names, I think. Or...
Yeah, you've got me, Chris, Mike, Diana, Graham.
I'll abstain.
Anne's abstained.
Right.
So that's carried.
Okay.
So can an invite be sent out, please, Julian, to the next meeting?
I will do that.
I believe, just for the record, he is the candidate for the ward, isn't he, Chris? I believe you may know more than me, but he's the candidate for the borough ward.
Yeah, he's contesting the borough council seat as well.
Yeah, so he's a good, strong interest in the area.
Updates on issues from previous meetings. So you sent us a supplementary on that, Julian.
I did. There's nothing really of any great interest in it. Again, things are proceeding to completion. Some of the early ones I need to spend a bit of time looking at, but most of the recent ones are being dealt with or have been dealt with already.
Okay.
Can I just note as well, I know we're on the time pressure, but can I just note that one of the issues that's taken time is that members of both the Finance Committee and Main Council had a special meeting, and Julian and the Finance Officer admirably serviced that. So a lot of the time has gone into that financial planning and prudence, and I think that just needs to be recorded somewhere. That I can't certainly recall that a position in my time where both August meetings have happened just to keep ahead of the game, so to speak.
Okay, thank you for that.
So some of the other things may be a little delayed because of that time that's been spent by our officers. Appreciate
that. Have you got that, Julian?
Thank you. Yes, that's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's question time for electors. So sadly, because of obviously the restrictions, we can't have live meetings, but I do have 3 questions that have come to us. And what I propose to do is I'll read them out and I'll answer them as I'm going along. But other members, if you want to contribute, please feel free to do so. So the first one it relates really to the proposed transfer of land in relation to the school. So I know from recent previous PC meetings that the specific point regarding the sale/transfer of land to Winwick C of E School has been subject to confidentiality criteria in the minutes, meaning little or no information available to the residents, keeping them abreast of any matters that may affect the public land. Whilst I understand some aspects of the point must remain confidential, is there absolutely no general information that can be shared regarding any PC discussions on a matter that concerns all village residents? So just answering that point, details of negotiations with the school have been kept confidential so as not to prejudice the interests of either party. Essentially, the school would like to buy a small piece of land in the northwest corner of the Middleton Lane playing field for use as a car park so that they can repurpose their existing car park to extend the children's playground. They go on. Second, referring to WPC point 54 in the minutes of July 2020, states that the PC will be /had submitted its land, leisure centre and playing fields with the land registry, applying to register basically the land we've got. Could the PC please confirm if this submission will ensure that any existing restrictive covenant on the village playing fields will also be considered and included in this submission to ensure village residents and members of the public will be able to view them as and when complete, in line with standard applications covering land registration, which allow clarity on acceptable future use, transfer or sale? And the answer to that is the application for first registration of the council's land with the registry office will reference the covenant insofar as the details that can be evidenced. The exact wording of the covenant is not known to us. And the questioner then says, third, with the withdrawal of the proposed school car park development on the playing field, does the decision to register the playing fields have anything to do with finding a method or way to allow resubmission of the car park plans on a future date and ease the ability to seek approval and therefore sale or transfer? The answer to that is the registration of the land is necessary to safeguard the council's interest in assets of significant value, regardless of any proposed future usage of the land. We would be doing that anyway. And then the questioner says, finally, what processes, if any, will be established to avoid any future parish council planning, transfer, sale of land applications, surprises, accidental or otherwise, to avoid any confusion or resident concern, particularly taking into account any current COVID restrictions and limitations? Well, the answer to that is that all local planning applications are reported to the council and appear on our monthly agendas, which are published on the website. Any sale of public open space has to follow a statutory consultation process, which requires the publication of notices, which would also appear on our website and local notice boards. So that's that one. There's another one that's not dissimilar. He's basically saying, looking at July's council minutes, he notes that it appears the council are attempting to register the land with the land registry. Can the council confirm that submission will include the protective covenant which is in place on the fields? This covenant was put in place so that the field will be protected for the residents against any negative development or loss of land space. I believe this was a wish of the original farmer who gave the fields to the village, I would hate to think any future land registration would be an attempt to bypass the covenant and effectively null and void it. And the answer again really is the application for first registration of the council's land will reference the covenant in as far as the details that can be evidenced. The exact wording of the covenant is not known to us. Now, if there is anybody in the village who's got sight or knows any more about this or got any documents, please do come forward to help us with it. But we're trying to assemble from what we've got really, and it's not easy. The next part is, can the council advise what steps they are putting in place to avoid or stop another occurrence like the car park fiasco from happening again? I would personally suggest that a public consultation must happen before even thinking about giving public land away that the council feels is disposable. I would also expect this to happen at the beginning of the process, not when decisions have already been agreed months before the public are asked their opinions. The answer to that really is, in any discussion about change of use of land, a certain amount of discussion will need to take place in private so as not to prejudice the interests of either party. All local planning applications are reported to the council and appear on the agendas that are published on our website. Any sale of a public open space has to follow a statutory consultation process. So you'd need the publication of notices, and that would also appear on the website and local notice boards. Then the questioner asks, can the council confirm there's a litter picker employed by the council to cover the Winwick and Burtonwood area? Could I also ask how much this costs and what instructions he or she is given regarding time spent in the village? Yes, the village does have a litter picker who's employed through an employment agency, and the cost of that person plus their vehicle plus disposable etc. is split 50-50 with Burtonwood and Westbrook Parish Council. So he spends 50% of his time in Winwick, and please note that includes wards to the south of the M62, because obviously Winwick Parish is not just Winwick Village. He also covers most public highway land, but he can't litter pick on high speed limit roads where there isn't a pavement. It wouldn't be safe to do that. And that's generally the places that people complain that we're not getting litter picked. And it's just because it's dangerous. People, when they're disposing of litter, really need to think that they're putting people's lives at risk by doing that. So the total cost to Winwick for 2021 for the person, the vehicle and disposal is in the region of £17,000. That's for Winwick. That includes the cost of the hire of the vehicle, and the council are not charged by WBC for disposing the litter. Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just in relation to the answers in the questions that relate to covenants.
Yeah.
Dealing with this is sort of professionally in terms of land assessments that we do. We've heard for the minutes this covenant, and I think the person that said that the received wisdom is that it was put on by the farmer who originally sold the land. As part of the advertising process, it was just to reiterate, and anybody who's watching this feed, if anybody's got a copy of that or knows somebody who's got a copy of that, please bring it to us and or into the process, because there's no intent to try and railroad a process or anything. We just have not got the deeds, because when Julian has gone looking everywhere we possibly can, they seem to have gone missing, certainly at the time before I came onto the council, and we've looked through filing cabinets and everything, and they seem to have disappeared at a time when the clerking wasn't done by the borough, so prior to the borough taking over the clerking. And therefore, it would be really useful if somebody in the community who knows somebody who's got a copy or whatever could come forward, because otherwise, what I fear is that there is no other remedy than just to basically it will go without a covenant on it. And whilst I certainly, and I think every member of the council will continue to act in the public interest in looking at what transfer of land occurs, because we're not looking for a sale. The thing to read into the record, and for people who are watching this live, is to say is that, you know, this is providing a car park for a school that will also be useful to the centre when the school's not open. And if you look at car parking use for those people who are at football, and sometimes when we come on a Tuesday, there are occasions where the car parking is currently not sufficient. So it's not as though it's going to be salted away and used to build a school. We will get benefit from it. And I certainly, either at some point, and I look to the chair because you've been more involved than me, have no problem to the Part 2 minutes being opened up at some point, because all we're trying to do is, you know, help one of our community facilities out. And at the same time, if it provides us some with extra and more convenient parking for the centre, I really don't see a problem.
I think the current state of play, though, is that they've withdrawn the planning application, so it doesn't look like it's going ahead.
All right.
But if there is any change in that, I'm quite happy for us to set.
But it's still, the issue of the covenant, I think, still really does. It would really help if we had that from somebody, but at the moment, we've drawn a blank.
It would. I mean, they've been missing for many years, so.
Yeah, certainly since
got that information.
about 4 or 5 times since I came on the council, and they seem to have gone with the council a bit with the clerking when the clerking wasn't by the borough or by Julian.
Okay, let's move on to the last question, please. And I'm going to need some help with this, and probably from you, Mike. There has been a thread on Facebook about looking at Burton Wood in bloom, flowers everywhere. The state of Winwick at the moment is a lot of the planters are in a bad state of repair. The gates at the entrance of the playing field are, there's a bench there and everything's not in a good state. So people are just feeling that the place is a bit of a mess. I'm asked, could Dave Hannon tend to this, because he does a very good job on Swan Green. So I'm not sure what the arrangements that we've got with him are. And then people are saying, obviously, they'll get involved, and I'd be quite happy to help people as well. But do you have an answer for us on that, Mike, maybe?
No, not really, because it's a matter really for the Winwick councillors to bring before full council. And, you know, if somebody comes forward with the scheme, then it just goes into an item on the agenda to find part of the budget. So not being a member for that ward, I would look to the 3 members in that ward to then.
What about the planters, though? Have we got an arrangement with somebody to maintain?
I have no idea.
Julian,
can I speak now?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's Dave Hannon who has planted up some of the planters out of being requested by Claire. The one on Swan Green, the 2 near the church, and I'm sure he's been a good servant to Winwick for a long time. I'm sure he would. And the one outside the school gates, the park gates, has been highlighted several times in the management meeting, and nothing's happened. But I'm sure he would be very willing to do that, and he's good at it. So maybe it is something that needs to be looked at.
It's probably something that needs doing next year, because I mean, with the greatest will in the world, the first frost is a few weeks away, but it needs to be something. Wouldn't you be
planting bulbs at this stage for now?
Yeah, that's a good idea. It's a really good idea.
I think in the planter sorry, Mike. I think in the planter outside the park gates, there are bulbs that come up, and they've come up over several years now. Daffodils and tulips, from what I can. It does need a good weed out. You know, it needs all the weeds taking out, and maybe a few additional bulbs. But I think it's got a very good proportion of bulbs in it. I might be wrong, but I think that's my understanding.
So do we pay Dave Hannon to do some work for us?
No, we pay Dave Hannon for Swan Green only. And the other job he undertakes is to just trim if it over the church wall, if there's any weeds, he tends to trim those back to keep the footpath, the very narrow footpath on the church side, clear. So he's very good. He's good.
Not expensive then, is he?
I don't think he's expensive, no.
So I'm just wondering.
We do have a gardener that does the park, but he's not as, Dave Hannon's the best bet.
So can we ask Dave, will members agree for Dave to sort the other planters out that we've got? Because they're parish planters and they should be maintained.
Is it Iman that's been looking at the one on the patio? Because that's been...
I'm not sure who that is.
Outside the gate.
No, there's one when you sit on the patio, there's one that's been derelict for a number of years. And I do know that when I was in sorting the accounts out, that Claire had said she'd got somebody to do something with that, which sounds like it should be Dave. But I think it would just leave an action for the clerk to contact Claire to say that the members are sympathetic stroke approving it to be looked at, and we've got budgets for this sort of thing, so let's just get some bulbs planted and then some overplanting when they die back in, you know, early spring to get you know, summer plants in and looked after. I'm very sympathetic to that.
The problem that's always come up about that is not so much the planting, it's the watering. You've obviously, if you plant something, you've got to keep it well watered, and it's the watering that can cause problems. You know, that it needs doing on an ongoing basis. So that needs to be included in anything that we ask somebody to do for us.
Yeah,
you know what boxes, well, they need doing regularly.
It's exactly a million miles away from the leisure centre, is it?
No, but I'm saying it does need.
Yeah, no, you're right. After
it needs to be built into any contract or whatever, because otherwise
the ongoing taking care of these things.
It gets overlooked otherwise.
And what about Hermitage Green? Is there something that we can do there for? I don't know whether those flowers grew back.
No, they didn't.
So can we get something there with a planter or something?
Again, at Hermitage Green, I think there was an issue about the mowing of Hermitage Green, which is undertaken by the Borough Council. I think they won't let us plant anything there if we want to continue the mowing contract with them. So it is an issue that we need to sort of think through and talk it through with them.
Yeah.
It was put under the sign. Now, whether any other part of the green, like on the edge where they don't mow, could have a plant put on it, I don't know, that wouldn't impede the mowing. Maybe that could be looked at.
I think that would be good, because, you know, people feel quite aggrieved that they put things in and
do.
Mown.
They do.
Is there somewhere that wouldn't upset anyone who has got a view of the green, Anne?
Well, some would enjoy it and others would. I suppose you have to take.
I think, to be fair, this is why we set Claire on as that sort of chief officer. It's just a matter to note and pass to her, because it's the sort of things that councillors can't do.
No.
But someone who's working full time should just be able to make a few phone calls and sort out, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Could that go on a list for Claire to do, please, Julian? And the other item that the ladies raised is in relation to the gates of the playing field needing painting. I think there are people, members of the public, willing to do this work. Any thoughts?
Well, they haven't been done for a very long time. I know that. But
first thing they'll need is a good clean.
Yeah. Do we have a maintenance person who could do that?
No. I don't know. The way I understand it is no.
Is it worth getting, say, 3 quotes, preferably from local companies, to do that work?
I think Claire's sufficiently plugged into people like Wigwam and things like that to be able to then minute that, and then minute that she finds an appropriate supplier to first of all clean down the gates, and then review whether they need painting, and then put that into next year's, you know, programme. Because again, you're not going to paint it in November when the paint won't, you know, paints are now VOC free. It needs to be done April, May.
It needs to be done in spring.
Yeah. So put that into the forward programme for next year. It's a good thing to add to the wish list.
Yeah.
So paint the gates, put some planters out. It's all part of making. We do have healthy budgets to do that.
Yeah. Start investigating costs of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask Kathy a question regarding the regarding the answers you've just given?
Yeah.
The litter picker. Can you just confirm? It would pay £17,000 for 2.5 days work a week, roughly. Is that what you actually said? And it can only be done limitedly because Winwick does have a lot of roads that are traffic dangerous.
It does an awful lot, big area in Winwick, not it's way outside the Winwick area. You know.
Why does he do outside the Winwick area?
Like Peel Hall, Horton Green.
Oh yes, I know that.
Yeah.
But that is part of his area,
well,
actually.
I think you would notice if he wasn't there, because there used to be litter down Middleton Lane, Goulburn Road, all of these. He does sort of down Newton Road, where where he can get. So you're always.
Kathy, there is still a lot of litter.
To.
I'm sorry, but there's still a lot of litter. I review it regularly, and there is still a lot.
I'm going to pick your brain then, because I'm going out with the MP on Friday doing a litter pick.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Winwick shall we go? And don't send us where we're going to get run over.
How would I do that? Well, I don't. But I think.
Notice Councillor Vope is nothing.
I don't know. I find the major roads are very, like the A49, you know, I find the side that you can litter pick there quite messy, and I find Allbourne Road. Well, of course, you can only do one side of it. And yeah,
if you think
quite often residents do the roads that are dangerous. I know a resident who regularly pits Highfield Lane. It's dangerous.
But there was a litter picker that was killed by.
Oh yes. Oh no. I wouldn't advocate. No, I understand that. I just wonder sometimes how much value we get for our money. Yeah. That's all. And I've always thought it. So
I think Councillor Eden raises a fair point, and I think one of the things as we come to review service costs in the before the next, but the problem is that in terms of budgeting, when we're budgeting in November, which is only 2 meetings away, I think one of the things with litter pickers, we need to look at KPIs, because I think he does a good job, and I think members need to be far more integrated into knowing and checking where he's done work when he's done it. And I think the gap is not in the litter picker, it's in members actually going out to the areas that he's picked afterwards, and if there's a problem, highlighting it.
Yeah, but we don't know the areas, Mike.
Another simple KPI would be just the tonnage of bags of litter he picks, to know how much we're actually depositing. Because again, I think there's a lot more being done than perhaps the chap gets credit for, and that would be an easy metric of so many bags filled today to check.
The streamlined service with fly tipping, we get that picked up an awful lot quicker.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of thing.
Well, I think you KPIs. Do with the fly tipping.
Report to the council to report to the council every month about how much work he's done.
It would be interesting to see after the before and after on a close scale.
Yeah, and I think members who have concerns.
We're entitled to do that.
Members who have got concerns should go out and look and do that.
Show me a picture of a street that is on his list that's still got litter on it. That's what I want to see, because we're trying to prove a negative here. Chris?
Yeah, I agree with you, Chair. Absolutely.
I disagree.
Councillor Vogue has his hand up.
I would just like to say, Chair, that in terms of, I haven't been forensically inspecting Winwick Village because it's not my ward, but in Peel Hall ward, I know that he does pick up litter, and I know that residents, particularly on Grasmere Avenue, have been very complimentary about his work, and they have noticed a noticeable drop in the amount of litter that they see when they're out and about, and that is as a direct consequence of us funding him and funding his work in the parish. So I can't comment on anybody else's ward, but from my own experience in my ward, the reception from residents has been very positive.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Written motions received. There's nothing, is there, Julian?
Nothing, Chairman, no.
Police and community issues. We've got the report from PCSO Brown. I don't think there's another one for Peel Hall, isn't there? I don't think he's got a report.
There was nothing received, Chair, from Peel Hall ward, I'm afraid.
Okay. As all members have had a copy of that. Let's move on then. Correspondence, which is at page 25 in the bundle. Are there any items there that members would like further information about? Notice number 3 is somebody again talking about the planters outside the school.
There won't be our planters outside the school, will there?
No. Are they the school?
No, they're on the railings.
Pardon?
I presume.
On the railings, they'll be school.
Are those the ones they mean?
There are some.
Path opposite.
I'm surprised our highway officers allowed it.
They haven't.
Julian, item 3, does it say any, has it got any more information about where the planters are? Are they the ones on the top of the railings?
By the path opposite the Swan.
From memory, Chair, it wasn't that descriptive. It literally said outside the school.
No.
So
I think it's the one on the village green, isn't it? Planters outside the school by the path opposite the Swan. I would read that as the one that's on the Swan Green.
The triangle bit opposite the Swan. That is our land, isn't it?
The Swan Green is ours. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has the planter's fine on it at the moment.
Okay.
And the two on the church are fine. The ones going down to the zebra crossing on Newton Road, they look very, very nice actually. I don't know about the big one on the build out opposite the church. I don't know what that one looks like, I'll be honest.
Are there any other items of correspondence that we should be talking about? Okay, let's move on. Planning matters. That's at page 27 in the bundle. A lot of domestic planning applications. Anything that you feel that we should be responding to?
yeah, just to note, there's a late planning one came in yesterday, and that's another domestic one in relation to 32 Mill Lane.
Okay.
It's a rear single story and orangery extension.
Okay. We don't normally get involved in the domestic ones, do we? So it's just there's felling of trees, an application to fell an ash tree and a sycamore at the old rectory, and removing a telecoms tower and replacing it with a taller one at Winwick Quay. There's nothing there that I want to go any further with. Any thoughts?
Move next item.
Let's move on. Land at Peel Hall. I'm not sure what that relates to.
There was two updates from Blackfriars in the pack at pages 29 and 30.
Okay.
Peter Black has just provided an update as to the ongoing progress of the inquiry.
Okay, that's just for us to note then.
Do members who've been attending have anything else to add?
Yeah, the inquiry's been adjourned till March now.
Was it finished now?
No,
Yeah.
it's adjourned.
Been adjourned till March.
I know, I was there on day one.
All they've got left to listen to is traffic.
Okay, thank you for that.
So she's not prepared to go back over noise or pollution or anything, she said. That's all minuted now. And
I know in Pete's update there's some problem with still some problem with the
unless we
modelling.
can challenge the noise one again, because it apparently when Satnam did the noise
Survey.
the motorway was closed. So the Rule 6 party are challenging the council accepting the noise. They did send a letter to Stephen Broomhead and Russ Bowden. I don't know if you've seen it, Cassie.
No. Okay.
Yeah, apparently
They are right to challenge that, in my view. I am very very skeptical about the council kind of conceding some of the lines of defence, because I think it's like the old lawyers argument, isn't it? You know, they need to defend everything. We only need one thing to stick. And I think we've probably given away a little bit too much ground in some respects.
You don't give it if you want to fight. You don't give anything away, even on the areas that you feel you're weak on, because
I agree.
That's how you fight a good appeal.
It doesn't boil down to what the original planning committee decided to accept as or put forward as their reasons for refusal, doesn't it?
That is equally true as the members. The members, unless there's some other.
That is the reason that we ended up with one. It's because members who heard the original application, which I spoke at, that was the one that they found as the ground for refusal. And I think that kind of ties the hands of officers going forward. So to be fair, actually.
But if that then we're using wrong information, we need to be challenging that.
Sure, and that's a good.
Yeah,
The rule
I
6
agree.
party, you're not constrained in the same way, so that's really
Yeah,
good.
that's true.
Mm.
Anyway, shall we move on? Finance officer's report. Where will I find that, Julian?
Well, I would suggest you deal with that in part 2 now, because Claire's not submitted anything separately, and the other papers relating to that were part 2.
And she's on leave, so okay.
And to be fair, she submitted it because she went on leave as part of the finance pack last time for the meeting that was called on the Tuesday, 8th of September. So it'll be referring members to that in any subsequent minutes, what's in part 1, and then the figures are in part 2. So I'm looking at the pack that some of us had because we were at that meeting,
Right.
but it's the same report.
Okay. Reports from Parish Council committees, the Management Committee, 8th of September.
You want me to talk to it?
Yes, please, if you would, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, basically, as I said earlier in the minutes, we've met to basically go through how opening has been going on in the light of although we don't do food, the enhanced opening that occurred in August and the enhanced use of the leisure centre in August, and then try to do a bit of crystal ball gazing as to where we would go next in September, looking forward to into Christmas and beyond. But to be honest, that's confidential, and if I just refer people to the 1.5 page minute, as it were, and then the rest of it is all the numbers that we'll discuss in part 2.
Okay, that's fine. So we can move on then, because most of that's going to be in part 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ward reports, starting with Horton Green Ward. Diana, have you got anything to tell us? No. Graham?
No, nothing, Chair.
Okay. Mike, have you got anything?
Not really, no.
Thank
Just
you.
the Peel Hall thing going on. I think
Members
have done very well in attending that, and I'm sorry I can't be there, but I was very pleased with Pete. I've got updates from Pete, and I think we've got updates there. So yeah,
good.
We can be proud of that.
Ward, Chris.
No, nothing that we haven't already covered, Chair.
Okay. Winwick Ward, Anne, have you got anything for us?
No.
Okay. I've not got anything that hasn't already been mentioned. So this brings us to the end of part 1. The date and time of our next meeting will be the 27th of October 2020. I strongly suspect it will be virtual again, looking at the current state of play. And that can all be communicated by Julie in due course. So I'm going to ask for the live recording to be brought to an end before I move to part 2. And thank you everyone for joining us if you have.